everyone, and welcome to Most Def Jeff. I am Jeff, and today I want to talk about my number one pet peeve while riding a motorcycle. And it actually also happens to be my number one pet peeve when riding in a car. I think I'm coming at this from a view of safety for both myself and others on the road. And I apologize if this video gets a little ranty. No, I don't want to say ranty. And if that's not your cup of tea, then there are plenty of other videos that are definitely not geared towards something like complaining about being on the road. And really, when it comes down to it, I really shouldn't be complaining about being on the road, because this is a privilege, and I am just so grateful to be healthy enough and physically capable enough to even ride a motorcycle, something I thought I would never be able to do. But what I want to talk about today is more just trying to be safe on the road, and my 1 year of experience has highlighted just how important some of these rules of the road are. But my number one pet peeve from my year of riding a motorcycle so far has to be following me too closely. Now that's always been kind of my pet peeve when driving too, and I'll tell you why I think that's important enough to take the number one slot. Just because when someone is following you really closely, whether you're in a car, on a bike, on a bicycle, your reaction time is affected by that person following closely behind you. Because not only do you have to watch out for your own actions, but you also have to take into consideration what are the repercussions of your actions on that person behind you. And if they're following you too closely, then that means you might have to change your action entirely. So if you're on a bike, maybe you can't slam on your brakes because someone's following you too closely, and their reaction time is also what their reaction time is. And so they have less time to slam on their brakes, and they might end up in the back of you. And on a bike, that's a lot more dangerous than when you're in a car. Of course, situations are case by case, and it can be dangerous. I mean, it's dangerous either way. But I find myself getting really paranoid when someone is following closely behind me. And I do this on my bike, but not necessarily on my car. What I do is I end up just getting off the road entirely if someone is tailgating me, or they seem frustrated, or maybe even aggressive, or they might get aggressive if I don't speed up. And on my bike, I tend to go the speed limit. But really, I don't act like a hooligan on my bike. I don't go very fast. And that can ruffle a lot of feathers, especially during rush hour and people are eager to get home and continue their evening. I'll usually just get off the road or turn down a side street, and that just lets them out of your hair. And unfortunately, it makes them someone else's problem. But if you're a motorcycle on the road, you can't afford to have anyone be your problem. There's one time that really brought home the fact that I do need to be watchful of people behind me and always have an escape route. Like, regardless, you should always have an escape route. But I remember one time when I was turning left and we had the green arrow, and the green arrow turned yellow, and I really wanted to stop, but someone was so close behind me that if I stopped at the yellow, then they would have been in the back of me, and it would not have gone well at all. So I ended up having to go through the yellow light, and it turned red while I was in the intersection. And that made me kind of mad, but then at the same time, I would much rather get a traffic ticket than get in an accident. Because on your bike, that could have dire consequences. Getting in just a minor accident could result in loss of limb, loss of life even, or just a painful and expensive recovery. So if there's anything I can do to mitigate that, then I am going to do that. And that's actually what spurred me to just start getting off the road and let people pass me, rather than trying to deal with it, being paranoid and watching my mirrors more than I'm watching the road ahead of me, because that's also dangerous. You do need to kind of have 360 vision. You need eyes at the back of your head, but if you can't have eyes in the back of your head, then you do need to take precautions that will help you increase your visibility, see better, and increase your reaction time. So that's my number one pet peeve. I hope that it's founded in some reason. Maybe you can relate to it. Maybe you have your own story of a close call because of someone following too closely behind you. Even if it's in your car. I actually, when I was 17, I got my first car, paid for it all by myself. I was so proud of myself, and I had it for 2 weeks. And that very thing that I just told you that almost happened on my bike actually did happen in my car. We had the green turn arrow, and I was gonna gun it, but then it turned yellow, and I decided that I didn't want to run the red. I'll never forget, because this guy who rear-ended me also had temp dags too. Yeah, I ended up stopping at the light, and he kept going right in the back of my car. And I was so sad, because it was my very first car. It was my pride and joy. And so that made me paranoid of people following me too closely in a car. But all of that is to say, you just want to do everything you can to make sure you're being safe, and that even if other people aren't being safe on the road, then you're still doing what you can to mitigate that risk and to minimize the chances of something happening to you. But if you have a similar story, if you have a number one pet peeve, or even a top 3, then tell me what those are in the comments. Each time I get on my bike, I learn a little something new. So if you have a pet peeve of your own that you want to share, then let me know. Stay safe, everyone, and peace out.